What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And today I want to give you guys a very quick update about Tesla and the broader markets. Just remember that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total. And the offer ends very soon at the end of March. Anyways, as far as Tesla's going, I just want to mention that we're trying to push exactly as I predicted near the 302 area. And now the question is, are we going to just blast off from here? Or are we going to see some kind of pullback move first before this tries to bounce? This depends on three main factors. Number one, it's Tesla news. So far, the news is not too bad for Tesla. There's been some protests going on in California involving Elon Musk's involvement with Trump and the whole Doge moves that have been made involving federal workers and other policies. So that's affecting their business to some extent. There's a lot of protests near Tesla. We'll see what this leads to for the time being. Hopefully, things remain peaceful and the list goes on. And there's also a lot of talk about how the Scandinavian sales for Tesla are declining as well. So, for example, if you look at their Swedish sales, they're down about 42% year over year. And then their sales or registrations in Norway and Denmark also fell by about 48%. So, not the best of news, at least for that region. It is relatively small, though, so it's not really affecting Tesla way too much. Just wanted to call that out. Now, that's the first piece of news. Despite this news, Tesla's still holding up, but there's two more things that will be more impactful for today. Today is a Monday, March 3rd, 2025, the first Monday of March of this year. I just want to say that we have two times which data is going to be coming out. At 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI report. Then at 10 o'clock a.m., we have the ISM Manufacturing PMI, employment, new orders, and prices. So just keep those levels in mind. Then we'll have to see what this leads to. So 15 minutes and 30 minutes after the stock market opens, we have this data coming out. Depending on what these manufacturing numbers look like, it may cause more volatility. So I just want to give you guys a heads up about that. There might be a big move for many of these charts once this data is out, especially by 10 o'clock a.m. And then the final factor that's going to be affecting Tesla's chart is going to be not only those two pieces of data, but this one. Donald Trump. So Donald Trump has announced now that he wants to implement 25% tariffs on automotive imports from Canada and Mexico by April 2nd. That's very important. And then I also want to add that today he's actually scheduled to talk about what he's going to be doing next with tariffs. I do expect a lot of tariff talk today. And so far, okay, right, Donald Trump is supposed to be imposing these tariffs. This is what the schedule is telling us on Canada, Mexico, and even additional tariffs on China tomorrow. So that's what's scheduled so far. That's going to be very important. So make sure you guys are ready for this. Tomorrow, Donald Trump could be imposing tariffs on all these different countries. The Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick actually suggested the administration could even reduce rates a little bit. But so far, that is what is going to be scheduled. So we're going to be listening to see what Mr. Trump has to say about all of this. Is Donald Trump going to be, continuing to do this? Will he impose more tariffs tomorrow on all these different countries, or is he trying to use this as negotiation? Is he going to try to negotiate with these countries for the lower rates? We'll just have to wait and see. As of right now, from the last time he spoke, he said that the tariffs will be imposed tomorrow. So that's what the latest update is. We'll see what Donald Trump says and how this affects us. So just be prepared, guys. I'm just here to give you guys a heads up and a warning. For now, we're seeing lots of headlines about this. Now, this is going to be affecting different sectors. And then on top of this, I want to mention that others out there, some people have different views of the tariffs. Warren Buffett was not in support of them. He believes that they're going to be raising costs for consumers and fuel inflation. That's what Warren Buffett has said. Let me just make it very clear that everyone has a different opinion on this, and then for the short term, there is truth behind that, right? We did talk about that many times in this channel. There will be some short term effects, so just keep that in mind. Besides that, I'm not seeing anything else that's too crazy on the news. This is what the earnings calendar looks like. Nothing too crazy for today, but then tomorrow is when we have a lot more retail coming out. So, with that being said, we'll see what happens, but just know that once the manufacturing numbers come out, we'll see how this affects Tesla. So let's just see, can we hold above 300 or not? If we don't, we do have this gap to fill. And I just want to see if we do make some kind of downside move, can Tesla make a higher low compared to this level before it tries to go higher? I'll be watching for that very closely. It's possible we try to push a little bit more for Tesla. We try to get close to like that 305 to 310 area, and then we start to see some kind of pullback move. I do kind of lean a little bit more in that direction because we are trying to revisit this area. And I'm also eyeing the possibility of a slanted inverse head and shoulders. So watch to see how the manufacturing numbers affect us and any talk involving tariffs from Donald Trump. That could cause a temporary downside move before we do see the market attempt to reverse. So I'll be looking for a move like this for a temporary rally. Tesla could still attempt to get back up to where this imbalance is over the next couple of days, but there might be a downside move first. That would be very healthy if that ends up being the case. So watch this trend line. If we hold above this, we could just try to push back up to 310 from here or above. If we lose this, there might be a temporary move down first, and then we could be looking for a bounce. So it depends on the data, but that's what I'm essentially eyeing for Tesla. Whether we get some kind of dip first to fill this gap, and then we eventually bounce, or if we just break out from here, I'll be watching that very closely. As far as SPY goes, I am eyeing two possibilities. So we're trying to push right here. It is possible we go a little bit higher, but as you guys can see, we have the possibility of a left shoulder here. This is kind of like a head. And we'll see if we kind of consolidate, form like a right shoulder, and then we try to get some kind of rebound. That's always a strong possibility. So look for a little push tomorrow, not tomorrow, today, before we start to see some kind of like dip move. There might be a little dip back down to like 594 or below, and then we could attempt to rebound here. I would not like to see us lose this support, but if we do end up coming all the way down here, you want to see us bounce again. So I think what's going to happen is we get some kind of pullback move, whether it's when the manufacturing data comes out or if it's because of Trump's tariffs. And then we'll see if we bounce like this. We could go a little lower, even if we go a little bit lower below like 590, as long as we can try to make a higher low compared to this low. There's a good chance we could attempt some kind of rebound like this, and then we could be going a lot higher. So I'll be watching this very closely. A move like this, just keep that in mind. Watch your levels closely at 594 and 590 is support. Then we have this 598 area as our resistance zone. Break that, then we're looking for an attempt for 602. Might push, come back down, consolidate, maybe get some kind of dippy move before it tries to bounce. I'll be watching that very closely. Now, the QQQ has potential as we're trying to push. I think the setup looks decent. However, there is this gap over here. There's an unfilled gap that's formed. We're looking at resistance at 512 and eventually 516 in that range. And we'll see if we turn back down to fill that gap or not around that 507 zone before we try to bounce like this. This could be like a slanted inverse head and shoulders. We'll see what the big move is going to be. So just keep that in mind. For the Russell 2000, we also have this inverse head and shoulders that's forming. I'm going to be looking for a downside move on this a little bit. Ironically, we have this gap to fill over here. I want to see if we could try to make a higher low. That's all I care about. If we don't hold this low around like 210, we're going to be looking bearish. But if we can make a higher low, then we could be looking for like a rebound move like this, right? We could be dipping back down to like 212 before some buyers try to defend us. So just keep that in mind. For ES, we're kind of flat right here, going back and forth between these levels. Same setup as SPY, basically, right? We have this resistance where this trend line is around the 6,000 mark. We'll have to see if we break through this or not. We could consolidate like this, form like that inverse head and shoulders before it tries to, push higher. That's looking a bit more probable. Of course, this depends on the tariff talk, what Donald Trump says, and what kind of reaction we get. Also, the extent of the dip depends. Do we get a big dip? Is it a small one? It all depends on those factors. But that's what I'm basically eyeing on ES for now. NQ, same thing. We're trying to rebound a bit. Might be looking for an attempt to push a little higher. We have to see how well we hold above 21,000. If we could hold it nicely, we could be looking for a rebound. If that fails us, I do expect us to chop around a bit, especially between 20,600 and 21,000 before we see some kind of bounce. Bitcoin pumped very nicely, especially after the crypto reserve was mentioned by Donald Trump yesterday. This looks a bit more bullish. As long as we don't lose 89,000, I think we could be pushing for 95,000 plus. For Nvda is a little bit weak here. We came very close to our target of 126. I still think there's potential in this, but we're going to be looking to see, can we make a higher low before it tries to bounce back up like that. I'll be watching it very closely. As long as we don't lose this low around like 114, I think we're going to be fine. It could dip a little bit more before it tries to rebound. So watch and see if we do get closer to the low 120s before it tries to bounce. Like I said before about Tesla, we're trying to rebound here. We're going to be looking to see if we get a downwards move before it tries to bounce as well. Apple, same thing. Tough resistance at 242 could be dipping to 238 to where this trend line is in that range. Right, there could be some kind of like dip move right here before it tries to bounce. But so far, this yellow trend line is our support. We've been bouncing off this many, many times, so it could be doing the same thing over again. Might be a small dip or, excuse me, a bigger one. Then we'll see what the reaction happens to be. For others, let's just double check this. We have We're going to go over AMD, trying to rebound a bit. So we do have a gap to fill below. So, like I said before, a pullback move before it tries to slowly rebound for 103 is very possible. We got a big gap up because of the big announcement by Donald Trump on coin. We'll have to see how well if we could continue to push. If we could hold above 240, I do expect this to continue and attempt to rally back up to like 252. If we lose support because of tariff talk in this 230 area, there could be an attempt to get back up to 225. If we can't hold 225, I do expect us to fill the gap back down to like 215 first before it tries to rebound again. So I'll be watching this very closely. Do we get a dip first and then bounce, or do we just break out from here? Either way, whether we dip and then bounce or if we just break out from here, it's going to be bullish. But I'll be playing this depending on the levels, especially because we're going to be waiting for the tariff talk. So just be very patient with this. Amazon might be trying to retest the trend line at 215, looks a bit more bullish. Meta, well, as long as we don't lose like 658, we could attempt to break 682. Could see a downward move before it tries to bounce here. We're looking for Microsoft to bounce as long as it makes a higher low and we don't end up losing like 390. We could just make a higher low and start bouncing for the low 400s. Google's also trying to rebound here. We have this imbalance very close to like 175 to 176. Could dip to fill this gap back down to the low 170s before it tries to bounce for 175. So with that being said, I think we're doing a fantastic job. We also have this bearish divergence on the VIX, which makes me suspect upside is very possible for the markets. We'll see if we get some kind of downside move first. There might be a small downside move, whether it's because of Donald Trump's tariffs or maybe because of the manufacturing numbers, and then we could be looking for a rebound. I think that's very probable for now. So make sure you watch these levels on Tesla. If we could hold above 302, I'm looking for an attempt to get closer to like 305 to 310. And if we can't hold 300, there might be a temporary dip for us to fill this gap down at like 294 or below before we end up trying to bounce. So keep the levels in mind. Thank you for listening. I'll be back with another update in just a couple of hours, and peace out.